Yeah, I'm Bill Prescott. I've been general manager here at Lost Coast about 10 months. For the 7.5 years before that, I was the marketing person at Sun Valley Floral Farm out there in the Arcata Bottoms. And before that, the marketing director at Los Bagels. So I've been around a little stretch here. I'm going to share a little bit of data and run a little bit of a PowerPoint right off the bat here, and then we'll have plenty of time for questions. First and foremost, though, I want to congratulate Molly on her new role as an executive director at the Chamber. Congratulations, Molly. I think they're very lucky to have you, or we are lucky to have you. So I'm going to do the screen share and then dive into some data and a little bit of conversation. So let's hope we do this smoothly. Okay, so the media landscape in Humboldt County is changing fast, and this corresponds to how people are changing how they advertise. In rural communities such as ours, broadcast radio still has the largest reach of any media. That includes social media, TV, anything. Like Nielsen reports come back that radio is still where it's at in rural communities. And in Humboldt County, the radio is definitely on. Whether on farms up in the hills or shops and restaurants on the plaza, and especially now in the time of COVID. As I said, I've been the GM here for about 10 months, and I've learned that we all take radio for granted. And the question I ask you is, when do people turn on the radio? And the answer is basically every time you turn on your car. You know, listenership while people are driving is nearly constant. Radio is amazing because it's free. It needs no subscription or fancy technology. It never has to update Windows or do anything like that. And it comes pre-installed. And also as a parent, I love to let my kids listen to the radio because they're not going to hear any foul language or any inappropriate stuff thanks to the FCC, which is not the case with the internet. The other big time people turn on the radio is when something happens in our community, whether it's a power outage, a traffic jam, a crazy North Coast weather event, or even a global pandemic. In all these scenarios, people turn on the radio. You know, even with the COVID-19 pandemic, the phones are still months in here lighting up daily as listeners communicate with the DJs and disseminate information out to the community or speak with local officials. You know, that's something that radio lends itself really well to. And as proof of this, you know, I'd ask how many of you have a hand crank radio in your earthquake bag. And I can't see you all at the moment, but I would hasten a guess to say it's about 100%. So the universal acceptance of radio is why advertising on radio still makes sense, especially in a community like ours with rugged geography, limited cell phone coverage, and all sorts of limiting factors with other media. So in 2011, almost 10 years ago, the Lost Coast Communications started a new sort of website, hyper-local, 24-hour, real-time coverage, and people could comment on the stories. It was free, with no paywalls, and supported solely by advertising revenue. I personally I can't believe that the Outpost is almost 10 years old. It still, in my mind, seems like sort of a new thing. In the last year, you know, we also added the Wild Rivers Outpost, and this was due to, you know, corporate consolidation of media that's already happened in Humboldt, but it was happening in Del Norte as well, where we can have an independent news source up in Del Norte and Brookings. So the Lost Coast Outpost has built trust in our community, and our enormous web traffic, which I'm going to share with you, is shows this. You know, we've become the news source in Humboldt. And since we're locally and independently owned, we serve only our readers. So I know that most of this presentation is going to be questions from you folks. So I'm going to hit you with some interesting data. So looking just at July, we still got a day and a half left in July. The Lost Coast Outpost has already had 4.5 million page views. And you can see the definitions are here at the bottom of the page. Page view being an instance of a page being loaded or reloaded in a browser. And then users, well over 500,000 just for July. And you can see this has been the trend for the last few months and even before this. These aren't, you know, spiking numbers. This is kind of our normal. And a user, could be, the user numbers are a little bit, the one caveat with that is that you might have, you're at home looking at the Lost Coast Outpost on your home Wi-Fi, and then you go to work, and on your work machine, you look at the Outpost again. That would count you as 2 people. However, there's 135,000 people in Humboldt County, and we're still getting this enormous amount of unique users. Age demographics are very interesting as well. I think the 18 to 24 on the chart here is artificially low due to many young adults at that age are still on their parents' cell phone plan or using Wi-Fi at their home, which is registered under, probably the adult's name and their profile. But you can see that we have a really even distribution across the ages. And the thing for those of you, interested in advertising and that sort of thing is look at the 25 to 34-year-old line. I mean, that's one of the toughest groups to speak to into traditional advertising. And yet we are crushing it with that audience coming to the Lost Coast Outpost. And then something else interesting in the upper right there, you'll see that the gender, month to month, it's virtually almost exactly 50-50 or 49-51. And that's something else that so many other media companies don't have. You look at, like, take ESPN, for example, it's going to be a majority of guys. But here, Lost Coast Outpost, gender-wise, is very, very even. Some fun facts I always get asked, what are the most visited pages? And it's the home page, the booked and released page, the obituaries, CHP watch, and then the lowdown chowdown. And I don't know, the lowdown, is kind of a what's going on in our community. And then just last spring when COVID set in, we started the chowdown, which is basically a free way for local restaurants to advertise what their hours of operation are. Are they doing curbside pickup? Are they doing delivery? All that sort of stuff. So it was a great thing we did for the community. And then if you want to really waste an afternoon, you can go on to I like to go on to the Lost Coast Outpost Analytics and just watch at any given moment who's on the website, number-wise. And it's always between 400 to 600. And you'll watch it just, spike and kind of flow as the day goes through. And another great thing about, as far as longevity on the site, is the average time of about 3 minutes per user. So, most that's super long in website terms as far as how long someone spends on a website. I can go on most websites and do what I need to do in a heck of a lot less than 3 minutes, but it shows that people are actually reading the content, they're engaging with the stories, and as an advertiser, this is really important information. And then just for some fun, to compare us to some of the other local websites, so here, these are Alexa rankings, which is a Amazon-owned company. And if you look at the Lost Coast Outpost, I think it's pretty stunning that of all the websites in the entire United States, we're about the 1,500th most trafficked in the whole country. And some of the other big organizations in our country, in our county, the closest coming is Humboldt State. Dr. Jackson, you guys got a little work to do over there, but that's still impressive, I think, for a university. You got Humboldt.gov, and their numbers are actually doing a lot better. I don't know if you guys have been looking at their website for some of their COVID coverage and stuff. They're doing a really excellent job over there. Other media groups, such as Kim Kemp, who is kind of the works a lot in Southern Humboldt. She's at 72,000. The Times Standard at 100,000, and the North Coast Journal at 231. So, and this is a 6-month rolling total. So it kind of gives you an idea of where other local news organizations and information organizations are nationally. And then if you compare us to the entire state of California, you can see it's pretty amazing that the Press Democrat down Santa Rosa, the SAC-B, San Diego Tribune, we're getting more web traffic than all those organizations. I know some of them, like definitely the San Francisco Chronicle, I look at this data all the time. Some weeks they're beating us, some weeks we're beating them, but they also have a paywall and we're free. So there's definitely, it's not quite apples to apples in that scenario. But the type of power that this organization is gaining, I mean, we're really, You know, we're closer to the LA Times than we are to the SAC-B. So it's, we still got a little way to go till we're above the Huffington Post, but you know, it's, the Lost Coast Outpost is truly, you know, kind of an anomaly in the media world. And, you know, many media sources get buttonholed either by politics or by the age of their viewers or by prevailing views in society. You know, and the Outpost is amazing in that no matter what your politics are, no matter what region of Humboldt you live in, no matter, you know, if you're a young kid or if you're a senior retired, everybody is basically looking at the Outpost daily. You know, so as a business in Humboldt, advertising on the Outpost is essential, and creating a campaign combining Outpost ads and our radio stations, excuse me, creates enormous impact and ultimately drives sales. But at the end, Lost Coast Communications, it's about 30 of your neighbors, a dedicated group of folks who work tirelessly to keep our community informed and entertained. And we use our platform to help local businesses succeed with advertising. So again, this program is about questions. So I'm going to stop the screen share, and hopefully Molly has some questions for me. And we'll go from there.
Thanks, Bill. That was awesome. Those are some great numbers and statistics. So I could probably come up with some questions, but I'm curious to hear other people's questions. So let's just go ahead. If you have something to say, make sure to unmute yourself. Say who you are again before you speak, and we'll just kind of let it flow. Try not to interrupt each other.
Boy, Molly, you got a pretty shy bunch here.
Well, I have a question, Alex Stillman. So you were saying, Bill, that Humboldt State, you were telling President Jackson that he needs to do some work. What does that mean exactly?
Oh, I was talking about just his web ranking compared to other news web sources and other community websites in the community. I said that in jest as a, you know, obviously Humboldt State's main goal is not to have great search traffic the way the Lost Coast Outpost is. So I was giving Dr. Jackson a little bit of a jab.
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Could you speak to what happened with the Thunderdome?
Yes.
What?
So, you know, when the Outpost was started, the inclusion of some different tiers of comments was kind of part of the special sauce. It was part of what made the Outpost fun. It's what made the Outpost kind of entertaining. You know, it's more than just a dry newscast or something. But, you know, it definitely, over time, the Thunderdome area of comments where people could comment anonymously and without a real email address that we could follow up with, it became a bit of a problem, as we could see, especially in the, you know, current climate with the Black Lives Matter movement. And we kind of did some soul searching that though there was a group of viewers who were very passionate about Thunderdome and they loved to comment and they would fight it out in the comments for good or bad, you know. We decided that this was time to kind of retire that part of the website. I think it was also a maturing of the website. I mean, when we were just a little startup 9 years ago, you know, we were fighting for viewers. We were kind of gaining our market share. We look around that area now, we have the market. And so there's a certain maturity level that as the leading news organization, we want to put forth, you know? And so, you know, that kind of change, kind of a sea change to say, well, this area of the website does generate traffic, it does generate clicks and all that sort of stuff on the business side of things, but is it really helping our community? And after a lot of conversation with Patrick, who's on the call, and with Hank Sims, the editor, we decided that this is the perfect time to retire Thunderdome. So, and there was another aspect too, as a GM, you know, I'm looking at the numbers, I'm looking at what people spend their time on. And for our very small crew of people, you know, the Outpost is basically run by 5 people. The time they would spend policing comments was significant. You're like, gosh, how could we save more time to do more reporting, to do more community work, you know? So then we decided that this was it.
So what's different now? Does
So
that mean
now,
that, that you put time into?
Oh, well, and then now we have what's originally what was called Country Club for comments, and that means you have to log in with a real email address that gets verified. So, you know, if you say something inappropriate or you do something very rude, we can block your email address and your access to further comments. And so, you know, we've seen, obviously, with Thunderdome going away, I will admit that there's been some more, you know, louder discussion on the country club side. But I think overall, I see a lot less kind of trolling and crazy remarks from maybe fringe groups or fringe people, and a lot more, you know, intelligent conversation. I'll also add on to that, what we've also seen, and I'll attribute this to the current political kind of state of our country, is initially, you know, the Facebook part, well, you know, all the Lost Coast Outpost articles are posted on Facebook, and there's a lot of active conversation on the Facebook comments. And that was always, I'd say in the last year, the Facebook comments have even gotten dramatically more biased, more rude. And you're like, and these are people, you know, they're not using an assumed name or a fake email address. Like, this is their actual email or actual Facebook account that everybody sees them, everybody knows them. And I feel like the current, you know, political climate has allowed people to, you know, to not be politically correct, or to be just the opposite of that. So it's interesting watching it evolve.
So you think the change has been effective?
I do. I definitely do. I think there's significantly less people putting out hateful things. I think it's a lot harder to use the comment section of the Outpost as a pulpit for your racist views or your sexist views or whatever your, you know, whatever your opinion is.
I have a question in regard to that topic.
Okay.
So recently I read an article by I think it's a contributing journalist that you guys don't necessarily have in the Outpost, but is adjacent to. And I'm wondering what is happening on the Outpost side to either proofread or maybe have some other, I guess I'm just wondering what's being done to make sure that other voices or other, oh, I had this question stewed up. Essentially what had happened was the way, the tone that the article had taken was very racially driven by the journalist. I'm wondering, do you have people who can come in with that Black voice and either do we have Black journalists that are interested in being in the Outpost, or do we have anyone proofreading for the types of things that are getting put in and then also being put onto Lost Post Outpost? Can you tell me about that?
Yes. Well, we are definitely looking to increase the diversity on the Outpost and at Lost Coast Communications in general. But I think that's definitely, as you know, as society's happening here, as society's changing, I definitely think it is all over our radar that we need to have a more diverse reporting team. And, you know, I think Hank Sims, the editor, is all for that and very excited about that. And it comes down to where do we have the resources to hire more people, whether they be part-time people or freelancers. And so I think, you know, I would say within the next year, we will hopefully have, you know, someone new on the Outpost who's not a white male. You know, we do have one female reporter currently who's doing a great job. And we have other, you know, people of color throughout the organization. So to speak to that first question, yes, as GM, I want a more diverse reporting staff. And to speak to the proofreading for racial or you know, sexist tones or things like that, I hear that loud and clear, and I will bring that to Hank as something to be conscious of. You know, there's, again, it's a very small team of people doing the work. And I think some extra, you know, proofreading with a eye to things that could be hurtful, and Levi, we've talked about the incident, and I definitely, you know, upon reading it myself, I was like, yeah, I totally see where you're coming from. But I think the author was not doing anything malicious. I don't think it was, you know, I think they were just trying to make their writing strong and powerful, but they didn't realize that it was disrespectful in other ways.
Right. And that's where I have struggle, is it's always kind of going back to, well, this person didn't mean to. And that's where I'm wondering if we can either get education, or if we can get a submission process or something like that, where it's one step further. Can we get just one step further that kind of makes sure that, because as a Black person and in the climate that we're in, and with the communication that I've had with you in the past about Lost Coast, Outpost, Thunderdome, and other things like that, it really hit me in the chest. And I was just like, geez, Louise, it's bad timing. It's just not, it's not the right thing. So I'm only asking from my perspective for that one extra layer at this time, because I know, like you said, you are limited with your resources. You are only 5 dudes working at the post. And so just that one little barrier, because every time that we have that person who is just like accidentally posting something like that, it's hitting a lot of people. It's affecting a lot of lives. And so that's kind of where my standpoint was with that. And I appreciate you every single time taking the time to hear me out on these topics.
And we will continue to improve. I can promise you that. And you know, there's no other option. You know, the world is changing, and we must change with it.
I appreciate you, all of you.
I think maybe Aaron had a question, and then I guess we're running out of time. Aaron, you want to go ahead?
Bill, I was wondering what keeps you up at night as the GM of Lost Coast.
Oh, that's a good one. You know, honestly, I sleep pretty well, but I do worry about this thing called Spotify. You guys might have heard of that before. That one is a powerful threat. You know, yeah. You know, I also am constantly thinking and worrying about what is the next thing. You know, one of my favorite books is called "Who Moved My Cheese." If any business folks have read that, it's like a thin little book. It's almost like a kid's book, but it's all about not adjusting and changing with the world. And I think about the Lost Coast Outpost, and I'm like, at some point, something else is going to come along. And I do not want the Outpost to be eclipsed by that thing, because we are not being proactive in finding the next technology, the next way of speaking to our readers, you know. And to that end, you know, we're doing a lot of new things, as you've seen on, if you look at the Outpost, we now have an interview series called Humboldt Holding Up, where we're interviewing local business people and local community members about what's going on with them with COVID. And that we're hoping to expand into like a true podcast. And we're doing some other stuff along the way of how do we maintain relevance and be ready for when the next big change happens, you know, technologically, that we're ahead of the curve. That's probably the main thing.
Well, when you're talking about Spotify, when I look at all the whatever comes in on my phone, well, that's where I read everything. I notice how many things say go to Spotify. If you want to hear this, go to Spotify. So that's about a competition for you.
Yeah, it's super significant, and that's why, I mean, in the radio world, there's some Humboldt County is actually great for radio, because there isn't Wi-Fi everywhere. It's not like you're in the city where there's cell phone coverage everywhere. And we're even seeing, like with COVID, that one thing Spotify can't do is it can't pick up the phone and talk to you. It can't keep you company. You know, the way the morning DJ is having your coffee, like Midge on K-Hum or Carol Ann on the Point, they're like, good morning, what's going on today? Hey, oh, I saw this in the news, this is funny. Hey, you know, here we go, we're getting off to work. You know, you can put on Spotify and maybe hear this music you like, but there's no personal connection. And as we all get more into our technology and we're all staring at our phones, I do see a little bit of a renaissance of people who like the idea of a DJ, you know, who like that voice that's maybe up in the sky, kind of, you know, hanging out with them. It's still something that's very powerful, you know. And I do, to speak to Aaron's question, something else like keeps me up, that worries me, is that I grew up with a radio, like you know, in my bed, you know, like they listen to the radio all the time. And I worry about kids today aren't listening to the radio, so they're never going to have that connection. They'll be connected to their Spotify playlist. And so that really is a danger to the world of radio. But like I said, the world is not going to stop for us. So we got to change with it.
Well, Spotify also costs money.
That's true, Alex. We are not, radio is free, damn it.
Lawrence, did you have a question or comment?
Yes, thank you for your presentation, Bill. We appreciate you being here, and just the Lost Coast Outpost in our community, especially supporting nonprofits. I'm wondering if you could speak to quickly, I know you don't have a lot of time, but if you could speak to one, how we could increase traffic, because you brought that up, how we could increase traffic for our personal websites, but then also as a nonprofit and someone who's looking for volunteers, volunteer mentors, quality people to participate in our program, how might you suggest we utilize your resources?
That is a very good question. To speak to your search engine optimization and that sort of angle, you know, I think starting by posting a lot of relevant content on your website and reaching out to different community sources that you could link to, you know, I mean, your search engine optimization goes a lot on having good quality links is what Google's looking at, you know. So if all the nonprofits here, you know, through like NorCal or something, were able to link to each other's websites and you know, keep the information flowing amongst your groups, it would probably help your SEO. And then, you know, I think in Humboldt County is so blessed because we have the super generous group of people that live here, but that is matched by this enormous amount of nonprofits, you know, and I see that really as a challenge for all nonprofits, because there's a lot of them and they're all necessary. So I think, you know, for getting volunteers, getting to having people to plug in and help your organization, you know, I think right now in COVID times, it's actually a great time for this, because you could be saying, hey, you can volunteer from home. You know, you're not making your hour commute anymore, or let's say it's Humboldt, it's a half-hour commute from Eureka to Arcata. Take that hour a day and donate that time by helping your nonprofit or CASA or you know, pick your nonprofit that you're passionate about. You know, people weirdly, I think, are having a little bit more time in their lives, and I think they're also valuing the life here. They're valuing, you know, I mean, I personally, like, every night am so grateful I have a job. You know, like these are unprecedented times, but as a nonprofit, you could say, I'm more like, gosh, I should give some money to the zoo. I love the zoo. I always get a zoo membership, but boy, you know, how are they going to get through this? And I think like organizations such as yours could hit on that, like how, because really, you know, the most valuable thing you can get from people would be their time, you know, and their attention, you know. And money might be a tough ask right now, but if you could put together a campaign to say, help us with a little bit of extra time that you can do from home. You don't have to come to some board meeting. You don't have to come here and stuff envelopes, but hey, we need help writing this email blast. Maybe that would be a way to get folks to help in an easy way, you know?
What do you think about a nonprofit volunteer opportunities section like Lost Coast Jobs?
I think that's a great idea, John. I will write it down as a note. And the blood bank's going to sponsor that, right?
I'm sorry, you're breaking up?
I
No,
love that.
but actually,
Nonprofit job.
we could certainly ask around, and I think that there are businesses in the community that would be happy to sponsor something like that on behalf of nonprofits.
Sure, sure. Sorry, the
get a
salesman in
grant
me,
from the whole
sometimes he
area
just
foundation.
pops out unexpectedly. But I'll talk about that with our leadership team to see if the programming wouldn't be hard. Perhaps there's a possibility there. I got plenty of time. If people have more questions, I'm here to stay. So.
Bill, I actually have a question. This is David Frank from Internews and Access Humboldt. In your introduction, you mentioned that radio has more reach in rural communities than social media. And I was just curious if you were willing to dive into that a little bit and help us figure out, how you were able to make that claim. What are the metrics there that we can point to?
That was from a Nielsen report. Nielsen, the radio reporting guys. It was a Nielsen report. Came out maybe 6 months ago. I could dig through my email and probably find it. I mean, it didn't have any, source data, but it was like, here's the studies that Nielsen's been running. To be honest, the part of that too, which I leave out, is that rural radio part is led by country music, which we don't have a country station, but that is part of it, that and say you take a rural community like all the flyover states, that's where I think they're really referencing. And so, but I look around here, I mean, I talk to people in the cannabis industry up on the mountainside there, they're blasting the point, and actually they're listening to the lounge, because there's no Wi-Fi up there. There's no cell phones. They're listening to the radio, and we hear that feedback all the time. And, again, you start driving up 299 or 199 or any highway around here, and your radio station options start dropping off quickly. And you're definitely not getting your Spotify streamed off your phone at that point. So yeah, I can share that. I can find that document for you though.
Have you ever paid Nielsen to analyze your market, or it's just the general? You're talking about the across the country.
We are technically an unrated market. Long before my time, they did spend the Nielsen reports. To have them do reporting on your area is exceptionally expensive. So it has not been done in probably since I worked at Los Bagels. So that would have been like 2008 or something,
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think anybody's analyzed Nielsen ratings for Humboldt County for decades.
Yeah.
So you're talking about radio in general, not about Humboldt County.
Yes. In
Okay.
rural counties, especially rural counties though. And I think that's us, right?
They call it. That's what they call us.
That's what they call us.
I actually do have one more follow-up question, Bill, since you're willing. So I looked at those metrics that you pointed out, how the reach of Loco is, comparable to the Chronicle and superior to many large California newspapers, which is admirable. And, you guys, that's amazing. It's a phenom for sure. But I think you just mentioned, I'm going to ask you for clarification or follow-up. Is that attributable primarily, you think, to the lack of a firewall?
I would say to a certain extent, yes. But I'd also point out that diving, for that traffic, there is also huge amounts of numbers, not only coming from, on the Google
Paywall, sorry, paywall.
Yeah, no. I think that's definitely an issue, and also those people have print publications that people may actually still get, if that's still a thing. But the other part of those numbers is, though, we are pulling in also huge numbers from San Francisco, from Sacramento, from from Redding, from up and down, it's kind of becoming a regional news source. And so I think the paywall definitely would have an aspect of it, but I don't think of some of the other local, like Kim Kemp doesn't have a paywall, North Coast Journal doesn't have a paywall, that sort of thing, you know. But I think, you know, some of the numbers that are built into those big numbers are that we do have people who come every day from Mendocino to look at the Outpost to see what's going on in Humboldt. You know, so there's, you know, the numbers are really broad on who's coming here.
Yeah, I mean, 500,000 is a big number. So thank you for diving into that a little bit more. It's more of a regional draw, I guess that explains it a lot.
Yeah,
That's great.
Still, Eureka, Arcata, McKinleyville are still the top 3 on the, you know, in your Google Analytics report. But as you get down in there, there's other communities outside Humboldt that, you know, Sacramento consistently has a lot of people watching us. And
so could you talk about how your advertising, how much of it is local advertising and how much of it is what you draw from what I call the chum zone? You know about chum?
Yeah, I can imagine what that is.
But it's a specific thing in the net world. It's all those phony stories underneath the main story.
Yeah,
they goes on and on at your place. I wonder how much of that your income is coming from that, and how much is coming from actual
local advertising, and on a very slow month for the Outpost, it's probably local advertising probably fills up 65% to 70% of the slots. But as we have a big month, like we've been having a lot of big months in a row, it's going up. The local ad percentage will come down, even though our ad sales will go up. You know, so we're it's
I don't quite understand that.
Okay, so
when you have more eyeballs and you draw more money from the chum zone.
Yes. Well, and that money is probably about 15%. The chum zone would be 15% of our revenue. Local advertising is 85% of our revenue.
Okay, those are numbers where it's kind of shifting. I thought you said 65.
That
35.
Is the percentage of the website being filled up. So say, we serve, I'll just say 4 million ad impressions, 200 or 2 million of those would be local ad impressions on a busy month. 3 million of those would be local ad impressions on a slow month because the amount of viewers would be down.
Okay.
If it's a really good month for traffic, then our local ads don't fill up as much as the inventory because they're always put above the Google ads.
Right. So how much is there? I suppose there's no way of knowing this, but what percentage of your viewers are local? And how many people? I mean, you're obviously drawing on advertising from outside the area in a way, right?
Well, a percentage of our viewers that are local is probably like about 80%, and then there's probably 20% that are from regional areas. So we have all our local advertising. That's all, and it could be just someone it could be a company, a cannabis company in LA that wants to advertise in Humboldt County, though, that our local sales rep talks to, right? So all those get put in the computer, and then any remaining inventory gets backfilled by Google ads. And the Google ads, don't pay the bills. The local ads pay the bills.
But a lot of money goes to Google.
No, Google pays us money.
Okay. Okay, they pay you. Okay.
But they don't pay us nearly as much as I said, 85% of the revenue generated from the Outpost is local dollars.
Okay.
All right, guys. I think I'm going to wrap this up here.
Come on, Molly. We're just going to crack some beers and get into it now.
I think Bill and Bob, you guys need to get off, go have your own conversation and discuss all these details. Although that is really interesting stuff, but it seems like a lot of it, there's like little tiny details that sometimes are hard.
Molly wants to have lunch.
I'll join in. I'll come with you guys.
Yeah.
We can we can eat our lunches on Zoom and talk about advertising. But anyways, thank you all for being here. And Bill, thank you for your presentation, all your answers. And I know these discussions can just keep going because there's so much to talk about.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Thank you.
For taking some time out of your day.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Molly.
Thank you, all concerned.
And anyone that is thinking,
Thank you so much.
Anyone that's thinking about mentoring, we do have a virtual mentoring option, so you can stay from home if you'd like.
Awesome.
Please contact us.
Thanks for all your hard work, everyone. Have a
All
great
right, take care.
day.